All right. The time is 6:30 and a quorum being present, I call this meeting to order. So before we begin really the proceedings, going to make a few announcements. So this is obviously a much larger crowd than we are used to. When this happens, a frequent complaint is that you can't hear what we're saying up here. We're limited by the PA system. So my fellow commission members, I ask that you speak clearly and directly into the microphone. So the noise issue goes both ways. When the crowd speaks, it's very difficult for us to hear what the applicant is saying. So it's very important that you stay silent the entire time. If you need to talk at all, I ask that you go outside. I would typically say go out into the hallway and we can close the doors, but there are people out in the hallway, so if you can go as far away as possible as you can so we don't hear the noise overflow. Now, with that being said, before agenda item E, I'm going to make a 5-minute recess. So if you are outside, I'm going to do a sweep and invite everybody who might be mingling outside of the hall back in. So I just want to be clear that don't feel. Please, if you're going to go outside, please do it quietly so you don't interrupt anything. But you'll have the chance. We'll call you back in if you do choose to leave. All right, and that's all the announcements I'm going to make at this point until we get closer to agenda item E. All right, so first items on the agenda is the approval of minutes. These are the approval of minutes for April 8th, 2026, April 22nd, 2026, and May 13th, 2026. Is there any discussion on those? Not hearing any. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. First item on the agenda is a public hearing, a request for determination of applicability for Andre Palomo, 17 Henry J. Drive, Assessors Map 45, Lot 40. Is there anybody here for that? Could you please come up to the table and introduce yourself for the record?
Hi, my name is Andre Palomo, 1700 J Drive.
And can you just walk us through what you would like to be doing?
So I would like to install an above-ground pool in an area that is less than 100 feet of what is considered a wetland.
All right.
The ground is generally flat, so the equipment really would just be hand tools. It's unlikely that we would have to have any heavy equipment come in to install this pool.
All right. And it's how big of a pool? It's an above-ground pool?
Above-ground pool, 27 feet.
All right.
We haven't made the purchase yet, so.
All right, so it might change. I'm assuming you're looking for a pool roughly in one size category. You're not going to, buy an Olympic-sized swimming pool or anything like that.
No,
All right. So I'm not going to worry too much about the size dimensions right now, but if they do change.
It's a 27-foot round, it's just my wife and I.
All right.
Yeah, and we have a fairly flat, large, backyard.
Yeah. All right. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Dan, I just had a question about this special conditions. Number 3, no dewatering may occur in the wetland. Do we always put that in? We don't mean no draining the pool, right?
No, so I was going to address that with you. Pretty much, so I'm not an expert in a pool, but I know that when you have a pool, you put chemicals to treat the water. So if you have to drain the pool down, whether it's all the way or partially for, putting it away for the season, We ask, or we're not asking, we're telling you, do not drain it towards the wetland.
So we actually planned on putting the filtration system on the opposite side of the
All right,
pool within
perfect.
wetlands, about 70 feet, 75 feet.
Yeah, so it's just, yeah, but I will say again, don't point any hoses towards the wetland, go on the opposite side, drain it, that's great that you're doing it that far away, the filtration. So it doesn't sound like you'll have any issues, but that's going to stand as no dewatering may occur. So that's,
I mean, dewatering is
Is from the ground.
removing water.
I would say no pool discharge.
all right.
So
Yeah,
is it-
that's-
yeah, I
think
wasn't
more
sure.
accurate.
That doesn't seem
Oh,
very
I see what you're
clear
saying. Yeah.
to
I
I think
me.
we did that down the other one too, is no discharging
Yeah, because if,
pool water.
like, the actual construction of the pool will require some digging, I'm assuming, but probably not so far down that you would have to de-water that area.
No.
Yeah,
no,
all right.
no.
So when I read out the special conditions, I'm going to change that to no, I'll still say no dewatering, just to be absolutely safe about it, but also no pool discharge and draining towards the wetlands. All right. So, are there any other questions or comments from the commission? No.
Done.
So I'm going to read out the special conditions, and then this is a public hearing, so I'll open up to the public. Conditions include: the applicant shall install and maintain perimeter controls around the area of work to prevent the deposition of debris into nearby resource areas. Perimeter controls shall remain in place until all areas of erodible materials have been stabilized at the site. These controls shall act as a limit of work. No equipment can be stored or work done past that point. Prior to any construction activity commencing, the following must be completed. ESCs shall be installed by the applicant or an agent of the applicant, and the conservation agent shall inspect and approve of the installed ESCs. And then finally, no dewatering, drainage, or drainage may occur in the wetland area. Are you comfortable with all of that?
Understood.
All right. So now, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the public who would like to make a comment, now is the time to do so. For how many people I see, there's nobody who wants to make a comment. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability as discussed at this meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a major land disturbance permit, ETS Inc., 600 Woburn Street, Assessors Map 3, Lot 82. Is there anybody here for that? Were we expecting anybody here for that? We continued a different permit under the same company to the next meeting, but this is likely to be combined with, this land disturbance permit is likely to be combined with that one.
It is for the same work.
It's for the same work, all right. So not seeing them here, I am going to entertain a motion to continue this public hearing, major land disturbance, to the next available meeting on, actually, before I continue that, did we continue to June 6th, or did we continue to the 27th, I think?
It's the 10th and the 24th. We rescheduled to the 24th for the NOI.
All right, so I'll have them come back then. Could I have a motion to continue this public hearing and major land disturbance permit to the June 24th meeting? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. This one, this is a public hearing, major land disturbance for Marwick Associates LLC, 0 Merrimack Drive, Assessors Map 28 and 41, lots 1, 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 25, and 26. And the applicant has requested to continue to the yes, the June 27th, 2026 meeting.
That is my typo, I apologize. My typo, it's supposed to be the 10th.
Oh, all right, the
I
10th, all right.
apologize, they
sorry.
requested continuation to the 10th.
All right. Could I have a motion to continue this public hearing and major land disturbance permit to the June 10th meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Agenda item D is emergency certification for 137 Catamount Road, assesses map 65, lot 37. This one is, this is a failed septic,
Yeah,
Title V. Any other details about this?
special conditions to seed and stabilize all disturbed soil following work completion.
And did something collapse, did a pipe collapse on this, or is that something, I'm thinking of something else?
That was a different one, this one's just a traditional failed Title V.
All right. All right, any questions or comments from the commission? It's a pretty standard emergency certification for a failed Title V. Not hearing any, could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. We got through those a little bit faster than I expected. So agenda item E is coming up. We have a recusal, so I know, I don't think anybody's left, but I'm gonna take that 5-minute break so I can fill up my water bottle, and we can, hold on. So it's 6:42 right now. We will reconvene at 6:47. All right. Excuse me. It's 6:47. We are going to continue the meeting. Excuse me. We're going to continue the meeting now. All right. Again, I ask for silence as we conduct business. Thank you. A few extra things to go over before we start this public hearing. So, there was a citizen petition for me to recuse myself. The Tewksbury Town Council reviewed it and didn't see an issue with me continuing to run this meeting. I consulted with the State Ethics Commission lawyer who reviewed the petition, and it was determined that while it wasn't required I recuse myself, they suggested I file a notice of appearance of conflict of interest, a 23B form, I forget the exact thing, that's been submitted to the select board. For the record, my wife is Alexandra Louder. She is the town planner. That's all I'm going to say about it. So actually, one more thing about that. So this seems like a contentious, application. If you feel like this meeting is being improperly conducted, the recourse is to appeal the decision. So please do not interrupt the proceedings, do not do anything like that. You will have to appeal the decision to DEP, I'm getting flustered. DEP first. I don't know the methods of doing that. The conservation agent will not do that for you, but they can point you in the direction on how to do that. All right. So then, so I won't, again, due to the amount of people we have here, much like the moderator at town meeting, when it comes to public comment, I will be limiting public comment to 3 minutes. When there's 30 seconds left, the conservation agent will make a signal to let the commission members and the speaker to wrap up their comments. The comments, any comments made must pertain to the wetlands, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and the Tewksbury bylaw, and how this application affects those. So if you start to veer off topic, I'm gonna try to push you back in the direction of the wetlands. And so there's a big project. Residents should feel free to comment and ask opinions and questions. However, due to the size and scope of this project, I do not expect the applicant or the commission to answer those questions tonight. So I just want to be upfront. Feel free to ask anything, but we're gonna, have to work through this. And it might not be an immediate answer. All right, with that, I will open it up. Public hearing, notice of intent and land disturbance permit for Tyler Ryan, 73 to 75 Hillman Street, Assessors Map 35, Lot 6, DEP file number 305-1232. Is there anybody here for that? I believe he might be in the hallway. He might not be able to hear.
I can go look.
Yeah, that'd be, thank you.
They are here, they're coming out.
Thank you. There we go. Also, I just want to note for the record that Dennis Sheehan has recused himself from this hearing. And then whenever you are ready, please introduce yourselves, and then the floor is yours. And just also for the record, we've already had people saying that they can hear us pretty well, but they can't hear, there was only the one person, but I just want to reiterate, please speak directly into the microphones.
All right. Tewksbury.
You can move that closer if you want. You can move that base closer to.
Were you able to connect?
I think so. Let's see. There we go.
Thank you.
There it is.
Great. Good evening. My name is Tyler Rinn. I am here on behalf of East Point Energy, and we're proposing a battery storage project at 73.
I'm just going to interrupt you. Can you two also introduce yourselves for the record?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Greg Hockmuth from Epsilon Associates, project wetland scientist.
Frank Holmes with Langen Engineering, civil engineer.
Thank you. All right, continue. Sorry about that.
So, as I'm sure everyone here is aware, we are proposing a battery storage facility at 73 and 75 Hillman Street. We have a brief presentation to go over the project, the stormwater plan, as well as some of the existing conditions today, and then we will open it up to questions. So quick project overview, and then we'll do an overview of the existing site, proposed activities in wetland jurisdiction, and then the regulatory compliance piece. So there on the right, you can see the location in Tewksbury. It's a 125 megawatt battery energy storage facility and a new electric substation that will be connected to the project. It's located on approximately 4 1/3 acres of previously developed industrial land located at 73 and 75 Hillman Street, up by the Great Swamp next to the National Grid substations. We're seeking an order of conditions from the Tewksbury Conservation Committee, as well as a land disturbance permit under the Tewksbury Stormwater Management and Erosion Control bylaws this evening. A quick overview on what battery storage is, as this is our first time in front of you all at the Conservation Committee. It's essentially a large battery for the grid. So it takes energy at low demand periods, either overnight or during the middle of the day when the sun's shining, solar is producing energy, energy is cheapest. We charge those batteries and then discharge that energy back onto the grid during high demand periods, typically between 4 and 8 o'clock in the evening. So these are lithium ion batteries housed in essentially modified Connex boxes or shipping containers. They have a lot more engineering that goes into them than that, but that's essentially what they look like from the exterior. There's also going to be about 40 or so inverters on concrete pads, and then those will all be surrounded by crushed stone with a paved access road around the exterior of the site. There will also be a small parking area off to the southwest of the facility and a sound wall on the northwest, east, and south portions of the project. All of the stormwater designs on site meet the Mass DEP standards and will be an improvement on the existing conditions today. And then on the north there on the facility, or kind of on the left-hand side of the photo, you can see the project substation that is a part of the project facility.
All right. So I'm going to, again, for the record, Greg Hockmuth from Epsilon Associates. I'm going to describe the existing conditions on the site, jurisdictional wetland resource areas, why we're here. I'll describe the project and how it complies with the performance standards in the bylaw and Wetlands Protection Act. So as Tyler pointed out, it's two parcels, 73 and 75 Hillman. Both parcels are accessed from Hillman Street, which you can see in that graphic on the right-hand side below the yellow triangle. The yellow triangle is the outline of both parcels. 73 is to the bottom left, 75 is to the right. 73 Hillman Street is approximately just over 4 acres in size. Of that total land area of the parcel, approximately 3.8 acres is developed with an industrial commercial building associated with an existing landscape business, a truck repair shop, as well as extensive outdoor storage areas for materials and equipment on site. The remaining 0.25 acres consists of an isolated vegetated wetland, which you can see where that blue circle is in the top of the triangle. That blue circle designates that as being a potential vernal pool as determined by the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. Wetland resource areas on the site, in addition to the isolated vegetated wetland I just described, are bordering vegetated wetlands, which are shown to the left in green. That's where Mass DEP has mapped them according to Mass Mapper. They were delineated by Epsilon Associates, and on our permit site plan, the line differs slightly from what you see here in the green. Most of the time, Mass Mapper points out the obvious, but once you get on the ground and hang the flags, it's a little bit more extensive typically. The site is also in a Zone 2 wellhead protection area. The site does not contain outstanding resource waters, mapped floodplains, rare species, certified vernal pools. It's not mapped as an area of critical environmental concern. There's no surface water supply protection areas or protected open space. The parcel that is to the left, 73, Hillman, it's 0.29 acres roughly in size, and it's entirely developed. And again, that's the bottom left of this triangle. I have a better image here. This was taken from Nearmap, which is a program that shows much clearer aerial imagery. This was taken from this past April. It shows both parcels. You can see the bottom left and the larger parcel on the right. And that area where you see water in the top of the triangle, that's the isolated vegetated wetland that Natural Heritage mapped as a potential vernal pool. So proposed activities within jurisdictional areas. We have no activity proposed within both isolated vegetated wetlands or bordering vegetated wetlands. We do have some activities proposed within the buffer zone to those resource areas. The project does respect the Commission's 25-foot no disturb zone and 50-foot no build zone, but I will say that we are proposing some activity in the 25-foot no disturb zone, which I'll get to a little bit further in my presentation, but that activity is just to restore an area that's currently developed. There's a retaining wall, some structures, and some debris. So part of this project proposes to restore that and plant it as a native wetland, native meadow area with an upland meadow seed mix, which again, I'll talk about when we get to the landscape plan. So the activities proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone, obviously there's going to need to be some demolition on this site. There's existing structures, there's concrete walls, there's storage bays. There needs to be some demolition and site prep, some clearing and grading. Portion of that activity is within the 100-foot buffer zone. I have a plan on the next slide that shows where these activities are, but I'll briefly go through them on this slide. There'll be the need to install some underground utilities, placement of concrete foundations, and installation of electrical equipment. Surface stabilization is proposed in the form of pavement or crushed stone, and where it's not paved or crushed stone, it will be either planted as upland meadow or there'll be concrete pads, and the concrete pads are below the battery storage units and some of the other equipment. None of the activity is proposed in naturally vegetated buffer zone areas. All activities are proposed within existing disturbed or developed areas. And then landscaping, including restoration of a native upland meadow between project facilities and the adjacent wetlands, where right now there currently is no separation really between the active portions of the site and the adjacent jurisdictional resource areas. We measured the closest point of existing disturbance at roughly 8 feet to the nearest wetland resource area, and that was on the left-hand side of the site, the western part of the site, in the vicinity of the bordering vegetated wetland. This is an image with the resource areas and buffer zones. So the resource areas are the line that you see with the little black circles all along the left. That marks the edge of the delineated bordering vegetated wetland line that Epsilon flagged in the field. And the circular area you see in the top of the triangle, the black line with the black circles, is the edge of the isolated vegetated wetland. The green line that you see is the 100-foot buffer zone from those resource areas. We're here to talk about the activity proposed between that green line and the delineated wetland boundaries, both bordering and isolated wetlands. This is the landscape plan that I talked about briefly. The hatch pattern that you see that looks like a lot of little dots all around the site, that's areas that are proposed to be graded, sloped, and seeded with an upland wildlife forage mix. It's an Ernst Mix 123, which contains native species. It does well in areas like this, which is why it was selected. Any slope that's steeper than 3:1 is proposed to be stabilized with erosion control fabric before it's seeded. And I don't believe we have any slopes that are steeper than 3:1. The table in the upper right-hand corner, I know it's very difficult to see, but that contains native tree and shrub species, red maples, serviceberry, river birch, red twig dogwood, northern arrowwood, and then some evergreens too, northern bayberry and inkberry holly. These are all native species that do well on sites like this. They'll tolerate open sun, drought-like conditions. So this slide walks through how we comply with the regulatory compliance under both the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act. As I mentioned before, no activities proposed within the wetlands themselves. The Commission has jurisdiction within 100 feet of both of these delineated wetland resource areas, and within that 100-foot buffer zone area, the performance standards under the bylaw specify that there shall be a 25-foot no disturb zone and a 50-foot no build zone for structures, and the bylaw and regulations define what structures are. Structures do not include fencing, paved driveways, crushed stone. We don't have any structures, or the project doesn't propose any structures within 50 feet of the wetlands, so there's no structures proposed within the 50-foot no-build zone. As I mentioned before, we are seeking a waiver that we included in our narrative to conduct some activities within the 25-foot no-disturb zone, but again, that's just to restore the area south of the isolated vegetated wetland where there's currently a block retaining wall, pavement, and some debris. We want to pull that out, grade it, loam it, and seed it with that upland meadow mix that I discussed before. No vegetation is proposed to be removed within these buffer areas. The intent is to work within existing developed, degraded, and maintained areas. And part of the project also includes the installation of stormwater management improvements, which is a major improvement from what's there now. There's very limited stormwater management on the site currently. And Frank's going to talk about the stormwater management standards next. But I think that's all I have for now. I'll hand it off to Frank.
So So hello again, Frank Holmes with Langen Engineering, and as Greg mentioned, I'm going to talk about and describe the stormwater management system on site and how the project complies with the state's stormwater management standards as well as the town's standards. So also, again, has been described, the site is already developed. In total, the site is a little over 4 acres, and of that 4 acres, over 2 of that is impervious. The existing site really doesn't have any stormwater management, treatment, detention or retention or recharge standards. The stormwater is essentially collected and discharged, without any treatment to speak of to the town's municipal drainage system in Hillman Street. This project will result in significant improvements over the existing conditions with respect to stormwater. And that, to start, we're going to be reducing the amount of impervious area on site significantly to about 1.5 acres. So from a little over 2 to about 1.5, so a reduction of about 1/2 of an acre of impervious area. The project will also make significant improvements in that it will reduce the rate of stormwater runoff from the site. As I mentioned, in the existing condition, the stormwater that's collected goes to the town's municipal system. Other portions of the site discharge by sheet flow to the wetlands to the west of the site, west and north of the site, and to the isolated vegetated wetland. In the proposed condition, we will not be discharging any water to the municipal system, and that's, at the direction of the town's Department of Public Works and Engineering departments. And instead, we'll be collecting all the stormwater on site, treating it, providing for recharge and for detention, and then discharging water to the wetlands to the west and to the north. So I want to describe a little bit how the water is collected. It will be with water quality units that would look like a catch basin if you see them, with a grate located at low points on the site. However, they provide for total suspended solids removal. They also provide for removal of oils and other pollutants. So they're a pre-treatment device, and so that's the first line of defense for water quality treatment. Those systems then overflow to a recharge system that will provide the amount of groundwater recharge that is required by the DEP stormwater management standards. Those recharge systems then overflow into subsurface detention systems that will be chambers that are below grade and that are watertight. And they serve to hold on to the water and release it slowly into the drainage system that discharge to the wetlands. And so that's a general description of the treatment train. And as I mentioned, through the water quality treatment, the recharge, and the detention, we meet the DEP stormwater management standards for peak rate, water quality treatment, and groundwater recharge. And we meet all the rest of the standards too, with respect to not having any untreated discharges to wetlands. We do have an erosion control plan for the site. We have an operation and maintenance plan, for the monitoring and maintenance of the stormwater systems. And all of that is documented in the stormwater report that was filed with the notice of intent. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we do have an erosion control plan, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here. We have the typical erosion controls that people are, I think, accustomed to seeing with silt fence and compost filter tubes or straw wattles around the perimeter of the site. The water quality units that we have on site will have inlet protection during construction to collect sediment and prevent that sediment from getting into the stormwater system. We'll have a tracking pad at the site entrance so that construction vehicles, their wheels can be cleaned before the vehicles exit onto the town's roads. We'll have temporary stabilization during construction and in use of vegetated cover for disturbed areas. And then you will be restricting stockpiles, keeping them away from the wetlands. And then lastly, what I'll say at this point on this slide is that the site is over an acre, and so we will also be required to file with the EPA with a NPDES permit, and a stormwater pollution prevention plan will be prepared in support of that permit. So next slide, please. And then lastly, what I want to say is that the project will also have an environmental inspector that will be performing inspections during construction to confirm compliance with the NPDES rules and regulations. Snow removal and de-icing will be managed to minimize impacts to water quality. And if dewatering is necessary, then we will have dewatering best management practices such as sediment traps or dewatering frac tanks prior to discharge. This drawing is of the erosion and sediment control plan that was included in the drawing set with the notice of intent, and it graphically shows the erosion controls around the perimeter of the site. Those are the dots, the line of dots that are around the perimeter, the inlet protection, the stabilized construction entrance, and it also shows location of recharge areas and calls for those to be protected from overcompaction during construction.
That's it. That's the end of our presentation.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So, I have we haven't received a peer reviews from you guys yet. I understand.
Microphone. Sorry.
Turned off my microphone. Sorry about that. All right. We haven't received a peer review from you guys, so our policy, I guess, is we won't make any decisions on this until we can see that and digest it and stuff. I will ultimately tonight be looking to get a motion to continue this hearing to the next meeting. All right, so just as long as we're all under the same understanding. So a common issue we have for the Conservation Commission is, and I'll be honest, this is more for smaller projects, but we have somebody come in, they build a home, and then they sell that home, or any type of site, and the new homeowners or building owners, they claim that they're unaware of the wetlands that are very clearly there. So one of the things that we've started doing is in, the closing is, saying that you need to provide all the wetland documents to the new owners. So what I'm getting at is, the company, I believe, is Hillman Energy Center Battery Storage System. I've heard Langen, I've heard, a few different company names. Are you planning on keeping this under, one company, or is this, you're gonna eventually, do you have any plans to sell it? Because I want to know right now whether those, things have to be included in any, selling documents and, purchase and agreements. I just want all of that information up front if that's the plan you're going with, so.
Sure, yeah, happy to speak to that. So East Point Energy builds and develops and owns and operates projects of this type. We've not made a final decision for this project. We are currently speaking with a number of potential other companies that would ultimately be the owner and operators of this, but no decisions have been made on that. With that said, there's a number of ways in which, if the project were to be sold, that the future buyer would be held to the same standards. So the first is that if it were to be sold, the full Hillman project LLC would be sold. And so any conditions or requirements placed on the order of conditions given from you guys, as well as the host community agreement, which was signed with the town, that also codifies a lot of protections for wetlands, for the environment, for stormwater, things like that. Any person or company that is building this project is going to have to adhere to those same standards as those have been kind of placed on the project itself, and not necessarily East Point or Langen or Epsilon. The other piece there is that, these projects take a long time to build, and so any sort of construction would be monitored by the town, conservation agents, building inspectors, things like that, to ensure that the project is being built in a manner that it was approved for.
All right, so likely a special condition will still be that any sale of this will have to, make explicit where the wetlands are.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. A few simple things. I noticed there's only 4 parking spots. What is the snow storage going to be like for this property? Can you just address that?
Yeah, so we have not developed a snow removal plan yet. However, as part of the host community agreement, a snow removal plan has to be submitted prior to construction and approved by the city or the town of Tewksbury. And so any sort of storage of snow removal of snow on site will be developed in accordance with the town, and if necessary, would be removed from the site and stored elsewhere. During operations, there's not a large need for parking spaces, so some could be stored in that parking lot, as well as kind of that space to the south of the parking lot if required.
All right, thank you. So this question, looking at the proposed site, I count 1, 2, 3 of the battery BESS units, or what's
Sure.
the terminology?
Yeah, battery container.
The battery containers, so there's really only 3 or 4 of the big ones and a few of the smaller units that are in the 100-foot buffer zone. Did you consider any alternatives so you wouldn't have to come to us at all? You could be totally out of the, jurisdictional area. And
Sure,
why
yeah.
didn't you go that way?
Sure. So a couple things went into that. One was project sizing. In order for a project to be financially viable, it has to be a certain size. And on this location, due to the nature of the site already being completely developed and largely impervious, we didn't feel like we were degrading the site in any sort of way by encroaching on that 100-foot buffer. We really made an effort to stay outside of the 50-foot. And given the nature of the site, like I said, restoring some of that 25 no touch or 50-foot buffer as well. Given the nature of the site and the previous development there, we didn't feel like there was a strong need to avoid that 100-foot buffer.
You also mentioned that there needs to be an EPA permit. Can you just comment, so have you already applied for that permit? Do you have to apply? What goes into that?
Yeah, my understanding is that that's applied for at a similar time of building permits. So in the future, when the project is further along with plans and around the same time as the building permit applications.
I think one of the depictions of so you have pretty high walls, for sound issues. And one of them on, I guess, the left side of the site, it seemed like it didn't have a wall. Is that just the depiction to better show everything, or is there not going to be a wall? Yeah,
Sure.
That one back there.
Yeah, so the primary reason for the wall, like you said, is sound compliance, both with the Massachusetts state policy and Tewksbury's policy as well. And so the way that it's defined is sound at sensitive receptors. So in order to meet that compliance to adjacent buildings to the south and to the east, that sound wall is required, but given the fact that there's essentially nothing to the north of the site except for the substations and a long ways to the west, there wasn't a need for sound walls or any sort of attenuation barriers there.
All right. We would typically require, wetland markers be put up. So I was kind of hoping that there would be a big wall, and I don't know how the rest of the commission agree, thinks about this, but if there was a wall there, I would say there's not really much need for a wetland sign right there, because there is, I guess I would be looking for that. You can also choose to build a giant wall just to avoid these small wetland signs if you would like.
There will also be, I believe it's about 8 feet, between 8 and 10 feet of a security fence around the exterior of the parking or the driveway there, and basically at the parcel line. So where there's not a sound wall, there will be a security fence you would see similar to a substation, just to exclude people from entering the facility.
All right, so let me see if I can zoom in on this. Yeah, so I would prefer to see wetland delineation markers at the 25-foot no disturb zone along that side of the property.
Mr. Chairman, do you usually like to see those on a certain type of post?
We have a CAD file that we can provide, and because there's a fence there, I would, I'd be comfortable with it just being, applied to the fence, whatever's there. It's usually just like a 4x4 wooden post that it's put on. So either one, whatever works best for you guys.
And does the commission have a placard that they provide property owners, or?
We offer one, I think, for sale, don't we?
No.
Oh,
We no longer do that.
yeah.
Oh, you don't?
But I
Okay.
do have one example
Yeah.
that I'd be happy to share.
Thank you.
The Toyota dealership on 38 has beautiful signs up, if you want a good example.
Okay,
They've got
great.
great signs.
Thank you.
All right. And so I guess the walls are for, mostly for noise cancellation, but how do they, how do they work with like wetland animal crossing? Are we totally preventing any animals from going into this, and like, if there's trees surrounding it, so if somebody gets in, can an animal not get out at that point?
Yeah, so similar to a substation, the goal of the fence is to prohibit unwanted access. I think there's an opportunity for some sort of animal access, if you would. I don't know if substations typically have that as well. The fence line would be south of that, wetland system on the north side of the property. So that would have access and connection to the Great Swamp and the rest of that kind of wetland system there. And so, from the project itself, there's no sort of natural habitat for animals that we would be excluding them from. Like you said, if a squirrel were to jump over the fence from a tree or something, I'm not sure we'd be able to prevent that, but there isn't any sort of natural habitat for animals on this site that the fencing would preclude them from.
How much heat does this produce?
Heat? Yeah, so each battery container does have a HVAC unit on it to ensure that the batteries stay within kind of their normal operating temperatures. That's, a standard part of projects like this. Your iPhone or anything like that will generate heat when it's charging or discharging. These batteries are the same, but it won't cause sort of any sort of noticeable impact to the surrounding area.
So hence, it would probably melt the snow if snow wound up in there?
On the tops of the units, potentially. There's a large substation, and on the roads, I'd be surprised if there was any sort of impact to that. But that would all be, removed by a Bobcat or other snow plow.
So speaking, I guess I'm just going to ask this now. So I believe a common concern about these battery storage is the potential for failure.
Sure.
And, I've said this before during this meeting, this is wetlands. We're here to make sure that the wetlands are protected. But, some people believe that failures could cause health and safety issues. What are the common failure types of these battery storage units, and what could happen to the wetlands when something like that goes,
Sure.
wrong? Could you address that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the most catastrophic or impactful kind of failure, like any battery, it could just fail and nothing happens and it just is flagged. Our maintenance team goes in, exchanges it for a new one. The most kind of catastrophic event would be a thermal runaway of a battery container. So in that event, there would be an emergency response plan that we've been in development with, coordination with the Tewksbury Fire Department. They would respond like they would any sort of other fire. And the primary response in the case of a thermal event at one of these containers would be to ensure it doesn't spread. And these batteries have to go through a large amount of testing. There's Underwriter Laboratory or UL. They have a number of tests that these batteries have to go through to ensure that if it does fail, it doesn't spread to adjacent containers. There's also NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Act or Code 855, which also regulates the spacing to ensure that they don't spread. So if one of these containers catches on fire during a thermal event, the strategy is to let that single container burn itself out and actually not apply water to it. That's to one, adding water to a thermal event to the lithium battery is only going to prolong the kind of burning of that unit. You can't really put out a lithium fire once it's going. And so the primary goal is to ensure it doesn't spread from container to container. And that's what all the UL testing and NFPA codes kind of ensure. So in terms of impacts to the wetlands, we don't anticipate any sort of impact to the wetlands if there was a thermal event, primarily because the fire department would be instructed not to add water to these containers, so there wouldn't be any sort of runoff or anything like that. The primary response, again, of the fire department would be to, if absolutely necessary, spray adjacent containers with a mist to cool them to prevent the spread. But again, that's kind of a last resort if absolutely necessary. With that said, runoff from these facilities during a thermal event has been tested. In I think nearly 20 cases, they've done ground, soil, and air testing. And at none of those facilities have they identified any sort of actionable limit of contaminants. So the potential for runoff and being kind of a harmful impact is also incredibly limited and has not been seen in real world events. And then also the stormwater plan that we have in place is designed to contain some of the stormwater from the site. And as a part of our both emergency response plan, the Massachusetts Spill Prevention Act, and as a part of the host community agreement, we would have a environmental contractor on call to respond to a thermal event, and then they would test air, soil, and groundwater and runoff for any sort of chemicals, and if anything was found to be above, an actionable threshold, would pump it out and remove it. So a lot of different kind of layers for the safety there to limit any sort of potential impact or concerns.
All right, thank you very much for that. I have a few additional questions if I can find them. In the, I forget what document this is. The stormwater report, there's, I'm missing it, the table 1 on-site soils and respective HSG designation. The soil, you say, is Windsor loamy sand and Deerfield loamy fine sand, and they're designated HSG A, and then it says Group A, soils have a high infiltration rate, low runoff potential when thoroughly wet. These consist mainly of deep, well-drained to excessively drained sands or gravelly sands. These soils have a high rate of water transmission. So most of Massachusetts is in a drought. I guess, how does the drought status affect the soil and the infiltration rate? Can you speak to that?
So the drought really shouldn't affect the infiltration capacity of the soils really at all. We included in our stormwater report, we think a conservative rate of infiltration, what we assumed, at 2.4 inches per hour, which is, in line with the DEP standards for hydrologic soil Group A, but at the lower end for an A-type soil. And so, the drought conditions, again, shouldn't really affect the infiltration rate.
All right. And then, so Section 2.2, Mass DEP Stormwater Performance Standards. 4 says stormwater management systems shall be designed to remove 80% of the annual post-construction load of total suspended solids, TSS. This standard is met, and then there's 3 bullet points about how it's met. And your response is the runoff generated from the proposed project will meet the water quality requirements of this standard using hydrodynamic separators to provide at least 44% TSS removal pre-treatment prior to discharge to the subsurface recharge and subsurface detention basins, and meet the overall 80% TSS removal requirement. So, with all that said, I think I understand the 44%, but the requirement is 80. So can you just kind of explain again how you get to the 80 from that 44?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll clarify that the 44% is actually the minimum required for pretreatment, prior to infiltrating any of the stormwater. Mm-hmm. So the hydrodynamic separators that we're providing actually provide 80%. So what the intent there, and maybe that could have been worded a little bit differently, is that we exceed the minimum 44% required for pretreatment prior to infiltration with the hydrodynamic separators, but they actually provide 80%. So they provide a lot more than the 44. And then the water from those hydrodynamic separators then goes to the recharge systems, and that's an infiltration practice that also provides 80%. So, we claim that we're meeting the 80%, but in reality, it's a lot more than that, because we have 80% with the pretreatment, so what's left is 20%, and then we're getting 80% of the 20%.
Right.
So in reality, it should be more, over 90% total suspended solids removal.
All right. And I guess, so along that line, like the images you provided, the overhead shot, like there's a lot of trucks. It's a truck repair shop currently, or was in the past. So, there seems to be a lot of room for improvement. I would assume that when this first goes in, it would, remove 80%, as you said, but how does it work in the long term? Will it continue to always remove 80%, or will it decrease, and what type of maintenance has to be done on this to ensure it stays at that level, or wherever the level is supposed to be?
Right. So the hydrodynamic separators, it's a good question, and it's a good point. They do require maintenance. And the maintenance is really monitoring of the units to see, how full of sediment, they are, and if there are any pollutants that are floating, right? Because they do both. They capture total suspended solids, but if there's any petroleum, like drippings from any vehicles or whatnot, they also get trapped in the separator. So part of the maintenance is to remove those materials as well. So the stormwater management report includes an operation and maintenance plan, and that would be an obligation of the owner to comply with the plan in order to be in compliance with the standards. And that involves inspection, annual, and I think in the plan, it calls for twice a year, inspection of the hydrodynamic units and removal of the suspended solids as needed, right? So this is a site where, there's not a lot of sanding that's going to happen on the access road. There's not a lot of vehicles like coming onto the site. So I don't anticipate a heavy total suspended solids load at all, but they'll be inspected anyway per the plan. And then, once the sediment gets to a certain level, as detailed in the plan, it will be removed.
Right.
And that then protects the downstream system from getting clogged. So it's almost like a septic tank protecting your leaching fields, like same kind of idea.
All right. It's part of existing conditions, watersheds. And this pertains to watershed A, which is plus or minus 1.51 acres, covers the northern tip. And you said that this watershed will consist of meadow mix and maintain, wait, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong note. It's still part of that proposed conditions watershed, but further down, this is about watershed C, plus or minus.
Can you speak up a little, Dan? People are.
Yeah. All right, so this is about watershed C, plus or minus 0.36 acres, covers the portion of the south and east perimeter of the site outside of the wall. Runoff will mimic existing drainage patterns and will sheet flow offsite to Hillman or Clinton Street. I'm just curious, is it both, or is it like, are you proposing to change it so it will, you're going to decide if it will flow to Clinton or Hillman Street? Can you just address that real quick?
No, it's really to both.
All right.
It's just sheeting off on the edges of the property. And as you read, this is really only landscaped area outside the perimeter of the development, outside of the sound wall. And it's just landscaped area that's going to sheet to the street.
All right. And then stockpile, this is section 4.3.4, stockpiled soil or sediment. And it says, as part of the Phase 1 site preparation, soils will be loaded directly into dump trucks and removed from the site, or soil stockpile areas will be established on site. Can you just address where those stockpiles will be established if they are needed?
Yeah, so during construction, there would be a construction plan submitted to the city, or the town, excuse me. And as a part of that, it would identify areas for any sort of soil stockpiling that would be required as a part of grading or anything like that. Most likely, it would be kind of in the southeast portion of the site, so furthest away from the wetlands to, protect them from any sort of runoff or, yeah.
All right, that's what I was hoping you would say. That would be as far away from the wetlands as possible. All right, that's, I think, all of the questions I have right now. I will open it up to the rest of the commission if you have any questions or comments.
I just had a question. Is there anything in the stormwater management plan about dealing with grass and weeds that are going to grow up and how those are going to be dealt with?
Yeah, so I don't believe that's in the stormwater plan as much as it would be a part of our operations and maintenance plan for the facility and a landscape plan. So we plan to have a contract with a landscaper that would come in and mow areas that need to be, as well as, managing any other sort of vegetation on the site.
So would there be pesticides used to control the vegetation?
No, so, again, within the facility itself, there is no planted area. And so it's just a gravel pad that would be, maintained. And then outside of that, it's a native landscaping mix that would be used. So no sort of pesticides would be required.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, my only comment would, when we going to get a peer review on this? That's quite a robust
Yeah.
stormwater plan.
I mean, the next meeting, is 2 weeks away. So I guess when we talk about continuing, I don't know, it might be better to continue to the next, not the next meeting, but the meeting after that. But I don't know how quickly the peer review will come in and how long we'll have to, read and digest that. So I'm just throwing it out there at this point, but that's a, very good question.
Do we have a,
There's no firm timeline. It's whenever they can.
do we have somebody under contract or?
Yes, so I requested STEC if their workload was, they're one of the peer reviewers that are frequently contracted by the town, and they are contracted, and it's on their list, but because it is, quite large, it may take them a little extra.
I think a couple of weeks is out of the question.
Yeah.
So what would your recommendation?
I mean, I without not wanting to overload the June 24th meeting, but I would let it up to, you can always come back even if we don't have it and address any other questions or concerns that might arise from public comment and stuff. So it might be a better idea to, continue to the next meeting, and you can either, let us know beforehand to continue, or we can just continue the conversation at that point. But I'd ultimately let you guys decide on when you'd want to come back.
Yeah, I think if possible, we'd love to be on the next hearing. But if the peer review is not ready and you haven't had time to digest it, I think more than happy to push to the following meeting.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
All I had was the same one Steve had, was the peer review.
Yep.
All right, so it is that time that I am going to open it up to public comment. I am going to reiterate some of the points I made earlier. So Due to the amount of people, I'm going to limit public comment to 3 minutes. And when there's 30 seconds left, the conservation agent will signal to let the commission members and the speaker know to begin wrapping up their comments. Comments must pertain to the Wetlands, Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Tewksbury Wetland Bylaw, and how this application affects those. If you start talking about non-wetland related activities, I'm going to try to guide you back to wetland information or comments. And again, you are free to make comments and ask questions. However, due to the size and scope of this project, I can't guarantee you that we will be able to answer those questions today. I will ask that the applicant, review the meeting, any public comments, and please, try to be able to address those at the next meeting. So before we go too much further, it's 7:47 right now. The town meeting and other boards typically only go to until like 10:30. So I'm going to be aiming for, hopefully we can talk as much as we want, but around 10 o'clock, I'm going to try to, maybe beforehand, but I'm going to be 10 o'clock around that time to make the actual motion to continue this hearing. It's already getting very loud in here. With that, I am going to open it up to the public. If anybody in the public would like to, and one more thing. Because there's so many people here, if you got up and said something and then you want to get up and say something else, I ask that you let everybody else who wants the opportunity to make their comment before you go back up. All right, with that all said, I will now open up to the public. And I just need your name and address, and then the floor is yours for the time being.
My name is Maureen De Palma, and I live at 1316 Emerald Court. And I am the owner of all of the buildings that are adjacent to this proposed project. So, of course, I'm quite concerned. And we have done a lot of work, everybody in here has done a lot of work looking into what will be the best way to handle this and the best situation for all of us. We've hired many experts to do many, many reports in all areas, but tonight we are concentrating just on the conservation area. And all we're asking is that you people do the job that you have signed up to do, and that you look at every aspect of this, not just the aspect that is shown from the company, but the aspect that is shown from our experts that we have hired. And one of those is Scott Horsley. He's a hydrologist, and he has put together and has been before the hearings at the EFSB with some very, very important information. And rather than me trying to explain that, which I am certainly not an expert in that area, what I've put together is a packet for you. Now, I know we're going paperless, but I'm an old-fashioned girl, so I still like something in my hand that I can highlight, and that I can circle, and that I can go back and review as much as I want. So what I'm here tonight is to hand that packet to you and just very quickly go through it so that you understand what it's in. If that is okay with you, I will come up and hand the meeting.
Yes, feel free to provide it to the conservation agent. Based on time limits, I don't think we'll be able to get through all of it. Do you have any electronic copies of this?
I don't.
Thank you.
But you're certainly welcome to scan it and put it into
All right.
your computer.
All right, thank you.
And so therefore,
And I'll attach it to their packets.
I'm a former teacher, so this is what I'm used to doing.
We're at 30.
All right, so that is 30 seconds. Can you not count this towards, we're not going to have enough time to talk about your packet right now.
No, I didn't expect.
All right, all right.
That's your homework.
Yeah.
We'll be very familiar with everything. And very familiar with who Scott Forsley is, because we hope to have him here for the next one.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, could we get a copy of that packet?
Yes, of course.
I will send it to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gerard Corbin. I'm from ML4, 82 Hello? First of all, it's very nice to see Hillman here. This project was announced back last March, so it's about 18 months. They've been in exactly 2 public hearings, one of them in front of the Board of Health, and this one tonight. So they've been very good at being stealth and not having any outreach to the community. Second thing to note is that
I think the battery's dead or something. Could we go?
Hold on, we have,
Light is on.
oh, we have some,
what else is
outlets. Oh. If we need to, can I reach over there?
Spare?
Frank, you want to put your laptop on the table?
Before we move on to that microphone,
I can move down a little.
Time is up. We could step back and let people sit here.
Just pull the chair next to it so we can sit down.
yeah, actually, before we crowd up here, can you move over and we can have public comment from this table?
Happy to.
Thank you for moving.
Thank you.
And just give us a few seconds to move over.
Is my 3 minutes up?
I thought I heard somebody call that out, but I won't comment. Hold on, I just want them to
Okay.
fully sit down and stuff. Yeah. All right. The floor is-
So many of us have been following this process very closely, some of us as interveners, some of us as limited participants in the Energy Facility Board's hearings. So there are a few of us here that are very well versed at what's been done and what's been said. One of the things that we've heard repeatedly in their hearings is the 30%. Everything's at 30%. For the last 18 months, that's been at 30%. Whenever we hear for documents, we have a plan for a plan. We have a plan to build this. I am thrilled to hear tonight that you said that the operations and management manual was ready, as well as the long-term pollution prevention plan. I would like to see those. Okay, good, because, but you notice the environment, and the erosion control plan was, again, something that was going to be planned. I sympathize with you because the select board has been of no help to the town of Tewksbury when it comes to addressing the batteries. They have chosen to look at it primarily from a financial standpoint and have negotiated a host community agreement that gives funding for a variety of activities in the town. They chose not to hire any expert witnesses, so there's no expert witnesses that are available to you through the town in terms of testimony, in terms of evaluating this proposal. The Board of Health asked for a lawyer and for expert witnesses, and they were denied by the Select Board and the town manager.
I'm just
So-
going to interrupt you real quick. I am all for saying stuff about the Select Board, but I will remind you that this is the
I'm just
Conservation
reminding
Commission.
you
I
of
would
some of the
appreciate if you keep it
handicaps on
focused
which
on
you're,
wetlands.
I'm just trying to remind you of some of the handicaps that you are dealing with, okay? In the most recent HCA, which supposedly has been signed, they put caps on permitting fees, so that's going to limit the amount of funds that the town's going to be able to collect. When I asked Mr. Curran what that meant, he said the cap is significantly lower than what they would pay otherwise. They also put a cap on the conservation permit. There's that fee that we pay on our taxes of 1.5%. They put a cap on that for them as well, down to 1%. At one point in time, there was a requirement for a 30,000-gallon water tank on this property. Now the town is on the hook to make sure that fire hydrants can provide all the water supply they're doing. So the town has been really bending over backwards to make sure this happens for what they perceive as to be revenue. In fact, one of the things in the last agreement was, and I'll read this because I don't fully understand it. In the draft, there was a statement that said the storm management design will meet the Massachusetts stormwater policy recommendations, and the project will fully comply with Mass DEP stormwater standards. In the final version, they deleted the following words, "and town requirements unless exempted from the EFSB." So basically, they said, you know, they're handicapping you already.
Before you continue, your 3 minutes is up. I ask that you, let somebody
I will
else.
recap pretty quickly. If you look at any of the diagrams, you'll notice most of those diagrams are 8 by 10 glossies that show no wetlands and no realistic view of what the property looks like. They talked a little bit about fencing. I'm not sure what the effect of building a 30-foot wall along Clinton and a 20-foot wall
Sir,
along
you're-
Hilton it will have on
There's
the
a lot of people who would like to speak. I ask that
already
you
done.
depart.
Thank you.
and Thank you.
You should be able to give that a try, but if it doesn't work, let me know.
Testing, yeah.
right.
All right, I have a document first. So-
And I'm sorry for making you guys walk back and forth, but yeah.
I'll attach this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. This won't count toward your time.
Okay, Dawn Chan, 100B Star Ave. So I just have a brief overview here. I like pictures, so it helps because obviously this is so overwhelming. So first, it shows that the reason that this is such an important project, you see Hillman Energy here in that yellow circle, the triangle there. It's within 2 protected areas. So in aqua, you see the Groundwater Protection District, which is our great swamp. In blue, you have the Wellhead Protected Zone 2. That's the wells to the state hospital. A BESS can be constructed in this sensitive area if extra precautions are taken. So although this is Hillman Energy's first time before conservation, this is the 4th stormwater design that they have presented already. Their design has remained at only 30% for over a year and has needed to be changed 4 times. Each time they state that their design meets all applicable regulations, however, each time that has proved not to be the case after further review and testing. Section 5.6 of the Tewksbury zoning bylaws, these are the ones that are most important to this project. I highlighted there, you have any infiltration basin must have a minimum separation of 3 feet between the bottom of the structure and maximum groundwater elevation. This is something they are seeking exemption from the EFSB.
I need to point out that this is Tewksbury zoning bylaws, not Conservation Commission bylaws. We have to talk about conservation.
These apply directly to conservation.
It says Tewksbury zoning bylaws.
These are the groundwater protection district, section 5.6.
All right, well, I mean, I'm just trying to keep us focused on the
This 100,
wetlands.
the infiltration basins need, I think you might want to recheck that statement because this is, section 5.6 is the groundwater protection district. I don't understand how that wouldn't affect conservation.
I'm just pointing out that it says Tewksbury zoning bylaws, that's a different board,
Okay,
but
well,
please
this is-
continue.
Okay, I just don't want that time taken away from me. I'm trying to help you out here, but these are section 5.6 that very much apply. So they are seeking exemption from the 3-foot separation. They barely meet 2 feet, and that's with now tying into the Tewksbury stormwater system, so that elevation is actually going to change, and it's debatable whether they actually meet the 2-foot. This 100% applies, and I really hope all of you take this to heart, that these are supposed to incorporate natural drainage patterns and vegetation. If you continue to read the rest of the sentence, it gives examples of what these natural drainage patterns are. Hillman Energy is not using any natural vegetation. It's a man-made system. Also on the back page, you will see that the seasonal groundwater is very high. It's close to the surface. The estimated seasonal high groundwater has not yet been established. They used what they call actual measurements, but that was only in a 2-week snippet, so those are not valid measurements. Groundwater analysis has not been done, even though our stormwater expert requires it to be. Very interestingly, crushed stone is between all of these batteries. If you look in the picture here, that's all crushed stone. If it rains, where's the water gonna go? Directly into the ground. 80% of water will infiltrate the ground instead of going into the stormwater system. This system is only meant to filter out large particles like solids and oils, not dissolved particles. Remember the total suspended solids? That will have nothing to do with containing any of the firewash water. There is no self-containment of fire water. Contaminated runoff will enter the wetlands. Currently, the plan is to restore the wetlands after a fire event. There is no containment. There is no ability to remove that. In this red line here on the bottom picture, you see, this is very important. You would only notice the 2 batteries in the inverter before. You missed the fact that underneath the ground, they have it's essentially a large swimming pool that is their detention basin. We just had a resident up here needing to get a waiver for his above-ground swimming pool close to the 100-foot buffer zone. They are building and excavating and putting an underground swimming pool in the 100-foot buffer zone. And 2 of their detention pits are not in location where test pits were done. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Good
comments.
evening. My name is Pat Stratus, 89 Emerald Court.
Can you just repeat that? It was a little loud.
My name is Pat Stratus, 89 Emerald Court, Tewksbury.
Thank you.
I am speaking in opposition to the proposed lithium-ion battery storage facility because of the serious environmental risks it poses to nearby conservation land and regional water resources. If you refer to the flyer that Dawn just gave you, and also it's the same line, more or less, the green line that Hillman showed you, there's a red line area that's located approximately 325 feet from protected conservation land and the Great Swamp wetlands. In the event of a lithium-ion battery fire, toxic runoff and contaminated water could seep into the soil, wetlands, and surround groundwater systems. These wetlands ultimately connect to the Merrimack River watershed, which serves as an important drinking water source for Tewksbury and surrounding communities. Town officials have stated that there is a plan to restore the wetlands after such an event. My question is, what specifically is that plan? Once contamination enters wetlands and groundwater systems, restoration is not simple, immediate, or guaranteed. The public deserves to know what remediation methods would be used, who would oversee and fund the cleanup, how long would the restoration take, how would contamination be prevented from spreading downstream during that process. Communities downstream, including Andover, Methuen, and Lawrence, are connected to the Merrimack River watershed, and they should be informed of the potential risks and emergency response plan. Is there a notification protocol in place? Have these communities been consulted? This is not a hypothetical concern. Communities elsewhere in the country have already experienced environmental contamination following lithium battery fires. For example, Warwick, New York in December faced contamination concerns connected to a lithium battery fire incident, demonstrating that these risks are real and can have long-term environmental consequences. Before this project moves forward, there must be complete transparency regarding environmental risks, emergency response procedures,
30 seconds.
groundwater protection, and long-term remediation plans. Conservation land and regional water resources should not be placed at risk by a project of this magnitude. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
George Ferdinand, 56 Pratt Street. I just had a question, and I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth, Mr. Chairman, but if I'm correct, you referred to this hearing as large and wide, and the way I hear that is not by the size of the area, but by the seriousness and far-reaching effects that it may have on human beings and the wetlands. With that said, my question is, near the scheduling of this meeting and the agenda, did you ever consider recusing yourself from this item? There would still be a quorum to take this up.
I'm sorry, you're asking me if I considered recusing myself?
Yeah, ever consider it since you would have to, with the agent and I'm sure the town, come up with the agenda for this meeting? Yes, since then. I'm just asking if you've considered it.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question correctly. I have not considered recusing myself because of the agenda schedule.
No, just for any reason. I'm just asking for any reason.
No, until I was made aware of the citizen petition, I did not consider recusing myself. And then as stated, the town council reviewed it, and I spoke with the state ethics lawyer, and they weren't concerned with anything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sandra Poole, 64 Emerald Court. The company gave a good presentation. However, I'm here tonight to formally request that the Conservation Commission deny any permits or exemptions requested by Hillman regarding. And the reason for this is the existing plant life on this site serves as a critical biological filter and structural stabilizer for our ecosystem. The Wetlands Protection Act is designed to safeguard that. And we have a bylaw here in Tewksbury, Zone 2 Vegetated Systems, Bylaw 5.6. Now, the Massachusetts DEP Stormwater Standard 6 makes it clear that the projects in a Zone 2 area must comply with local source water protection bylaws and ordinances. In Tewksbury, those protections are codified in Section 5.6. And the town adopted these from the Massachusetts DEP's own sample impervious surface bylaw of Zone 2s. So it is definitely a Tewksbury bylaw. Section 5.6.3, parentheses C, parentheses 3, parentheses B, provides that non-residential lots like this one, a storm water management plan shall be developed that provides artificial recharge of precipitation to groundwater through site design that incorporates natural drainage patterns and vegetation. And through the use of constructed stormwater wetlands, wet detention ponds, water quality swales, sand filters, organic filters, or similar site-appropriate best management practices capable of removing contaminants from the stormwater. In other words, this town chose a vegetated system as the default approach for protecting its Zone 2. The law
30
states
seconds.
that anything can be built on that site, but if it's a danger to the groundwater, it's prohibited. So why would we be building a site? If we had the site suitability right now, waiver that's introduced by 2026, we wouldn't be here tonight, because it's definitely a danger to the wetlands. It's definitely a danger to also the health and safety. So in conclusion, this commission is not being asked whether this battery storage is good. We're being asked whether this design complies with the town's Zone 2 groundwater protection rules. And the current notice of intent that this company has provided does not.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Miriam Buzak, 40 Emerald Court. I'd like to discuss just a few points on the operation and maintenance plan vulnerabilities. A stormwater report is only as good as its long-term maintenance strategy. If the O&M plan is vague, the commission can reject it. The long-term operation and maintenance plan outlines standard sweeping and catch basin cleaning. But here are my questions. Who is legally and financially responsible for the specialized maintenance of these systems over the next 20-plus years? What specific enforcement triggers or financial sureties, in other words, bonds, are being required by the town of Tewksbury to ensure that if the stormwater system fails and floods in a butter's property, the applicant corrects it immediately? In the event of a severe winter storm, where will snow be stockpiled on this site? Does the stormwater report include a snow melt management plan that prevents salt, chemicals, and debris from bypassing the treatment systems from running directly into protected zones? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray Adams. I live at 1203 Emerald Court, and I'd like to let people know that I've lived in Tewksbury since 1965. I've lived on Foster Road, Rogers Street, and Green Meadow Drive, and Emerald Court. And my concern is the safety of this town. Any place I would have lived in this town, it would have scared me to think of the fumes that we get from the fires from these things that will also contaminate the wetlands. And I'm very concerned about these things. We keep talking about East Point. East Point isn't the issue. Equinor in Norway is really the company that's backing this, and they have full control of our electrical grid, which really concerns me. They can shut the power off anytime they want to turn the batteries on, and that bothers me. I don't have a lot more to say about other things that people have said relative to conservation, and I'm trying to stay within your guidelines. But this thing really scares me, and the thing you have to think about, I've worked with IBM Engineering, I've worked with Xerox Engineering, Siemens Nixdorf, so I'm very familiar with engineering. And what they've put up tonight is engineering specifications. You should ask Lowell Gas about their engineering specifications and the explosion in 1952 that they didn't anticipate. So there's a number of things that can go wrong here. We're talking about perfect situation. We never have a perfect situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Berrigan. I live at 15 Emerald Court. And Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you for putting up with our time, or giving us the time. I need to speak plainly tonight because the record demands it. Hillman's revised reply brief is just not incomplete. It contains unsupported claims, internal contradictions, and missing analyses that directly undermine the credibility of the entire filing. And under Chapter 19 of the Tewksbury Town Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaws and the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Commission has full authority to reject any report that fails to protect local water bodies, groundwater, and abutting properties for flooding or pollution. Hillman's filing needs to meet standards for rejection. First, the safety claims are indefensible. Hillman asserts that hydrogen fluoride and other toxic combustion byproducts dissipate quickly. Yet they provide no plume modeling, no UL 9540A data, no toxicology, and no meteorological analysis. The statement about hazardous chemicals exposure without a single scientific reference is not evidence. It's a liability. Second, the groundwater assertions collapse under scrutiny. They claim the seasonal high groundwater is adequately characterized, but they provide no updated SHGW determination, no reconciliation of monitoring well variability, and no Mass DEP compliant demonstration. They even avert adequate vertical separation without providing update separation tables. They are not minor gaps. They're fundamental failures. Third, the stormwater claims are equally unsupported. Hillman insists the system is fully compliant, yet the design is explicitly labeled conceptual. There is no updated hydrologic model, no molding analysis, no recharge demonstration, and no Zone 2 compliant analysis. The emissions strike at the core of standards 2 and 3, the very standards that the Commission is sworn to enforce. And finally, Hillman claims the record is complete, even as their own brief acknowledges new filings, new exhibits, and ongoing submissions. Their statements contradict the actions. The bottom line is simple. Hillman has not met the burden of proof. Their filing is incomplete, inconsistent, and unsupported. The Commission cannot and should not make a wetland decision based on a record that fails to meet even the minimum standards of scientific and regulatory adequacy. I respectfully urge the Commission to exercise its full authority and require complete, consistent, and scientifically defensible information before taking any action on this notice of intent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alex Ashcraft. I lived at 62 Washington Street. I'm not an immediate abutter, but an abutter to the site. My question's focused on, we've been talking about in the event of a fire, how things would be contained, and one of the things that was mentioned is that the fire department's been instructed not to use any kind of water on the facility, although there was a discussion of using mist to cool things down. But we're also not talking about the weather as a factor. What happens if it's raining? What if there's smoke that's going into the air that's then going in and being absorbed by the rain and falling into the wetlands? I think there's a whole lot that we can't control on this, or that we don't have any kind of a way to predict or control, and I think it feels like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole on this one, just because there's a few check boxes that work for this site. The other thing is, I'm kind of intrigued by the fact that the walls, the sound retaining walls, are only covering a portion of the property and not the entire thing. Is there any kind of impact that would have on wildlife in the wetlands or anything like that? So those are my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Donna Marie Robital. I live at 527 Shawshene Street. So I do not have a speech. I have some questions. And I'm very concerned. I'm concerned because this did not go to the hearings at the EFSB. I mean, we did not get to come to conservation first. So although I'm emotional and I'm going, not making sense already, I want it on the record because I'm asking any intervener to please work with this forward because the Conservation Commission, I'm hoping will do their job. I know you will, but I'm begging you to be strict because this is about our groundwater protection bylaw. This is about protecting that area, and the Tennessee gas line is there, the railroad is there. There could be a cascading event having to do with underground groundwater. So that's what I mean by I'm not in order, but I want to say things on the record because I really want somehow this to get to the EFSB because the one thing that this is all about law. So Tyler's worked very hard. Everybody's worked very hard for a year. But there's different jobs everybody has. Some desks at the DEP do not have this. The law says that the battery energy goes first, having to do with the decision-making. But the one thing is environmental that the EFSB has to live up to, but we have to deliver it to them. And at the hearing itself, one of the members asked about the transmission line, the 1,200 feet. I'm not saying there's wrongdoing. I'm not saying the commission did anything that they shouldn't have, or there's loopholes. I don't know enough about everything. I just know it's all legal. But National Grid is a partner. 4-point-something quick math tells me that disturbance, that area, that 1,200 feet is not part of this. About this comment isn't about, did you know before? We know this has been being worked on hard for a year.
30 seconds.
Okay. So, excuse me. I am asking the commission, specifically the Tewksbury Conservation Commission, to look at their placement file. I didn't look the stuff up. I just remember about a year ago that the Conservation Commission had National Grid before them, and they were discussing not the battery. I didn't even know really about the battery. I was just watching the meeting. And the chair and others, you numbered it. And you said, we're going to have to talk about this at a later time. Now, I'm not saying because you're not talking about it tonight, if I'm correct, and that was the same thing. So the file was numbered 00. I'm sorry, I'm just not being...
I know, but
Okay,
I
so
do
you
need you to...
I'm asking you to please ask the agent to come up with that placement file. If that's National Grid, now what I'm trying to say is, you should be talking about that as a master plan. I'm not saying that was wrong then. That's what I mean by everything's done legally, right? So I didn't make a lot of sense, but the disturbance of the wetland, what's happening if there's a fire, the underground groundwater contamination on our bylaw says the quality and quantity of our water.
You've gone over your 3 minutes.
Something happens to Merrimack River. Okay, I'm going in circles, but Mr. Chairman, you said we can't ask you to answer the question, so I'm begging you to take out of what I said and compose what you believe are legitimate questions that I'm trying to ask. And I'm sorry I didn't do a better job and do it myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Al Mancini, 15 Kenneth Lane. The good news is we figured out how to fill this room for a Concon meeting. We just have to have controversial subjects. Now, the thing is, the last meeting I came to, there was like 4 of us in here, so it was really, this is nice to see. And so my question also is, I noticed that Mr. Sheehan ducked out before this issue came out. Can I ask why that happened?
So I don't want to speculate too much about this. I believe he's in a butter to this property, and when a commission member is in a butter, we're supposed to recuse ourselves.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to know, because like this is the hot topic. I mean, I don't know what's come through your desk that was more hot than this topic. So and for him to bail, I was just kind of curious. Now, the thing is, what I'm and has been brought up here several times tonight, I have the utmost faith that you're going to do the right thing, okay? And by that, I mean the right thing. It might not come out, you know me, you know I've come here several times. The environment and conservation is very important to me, okay? I've come here when no one else was coming, and I said, you know, this is very big, and why are they cutting all the trees down and all this stuff like that? To the point that, you know, some people have made fun of me, but that's okay. You know, I don't mind being called the Lorax. So, unfortunately, the Board of Selectmen and the town manager laid down like a prostitute on Saturday night in Scully Square. And for me, that really hurts. No.
I want to refrain from, you know, comments like that. I would
and that
appreciate
was
if
it.
we
That
kept
was the end of it.
professional.
I'm done. Okay? My point is, and it was brought up earlier, was that it sounds like the water situation, there was really nothing they could say to convince me that everything was going to go well. But it looks like they did their homework on how to make this happen. Now, I might be contradicting some people, but my concern also is the oxygen, the air. The fires have gas. I'm sorry?
30 seconds every minute.
Fires produce gas. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know what can be done about that. And I know, and I said it at the last meeting, Emerald Court, folks living in Emerald Court, 500 feet away, the gas travels. It's not just the birds that are going to be feeling it. I'm just saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Victor Corbin. I live at 70 Emerald Court. And when I was thinking about all this discussion that's going on tonight, remember that this Great Swamp was declared an environmentally protected area. There was a reason for that. It goes back generations. The Conservation Committee is here to look at any infringements on that, to see if that's reasonable, see if it should happen or not. And I go back and look and say, okay, we're supposed to protect this area. Now, a company with financial gain looking at it said, gee, this is a good place to build this battery. And if I can get the Conservation Committee and the town to agree to this, this is going to be financially rewarding for me. They're in for the money. I mean, that's why they would spend all the money and invest in that. And you can see how touchy they are about it, because some say, well, what if you scale back a little bit? No, we can't do that. So remember, just because somebody comes in front of you with a proposal that infringes on something that's been environmentally protected for years, it's your decisions as to whether you're going to accept that. What is the reward? What is the benefit to the town and to the environment for this plant to be there? All we heard tonight is that there's a lot of issues in the groundwater, and it could despoil this whole area that we're trying to protect. So I hope you take that very much in consideration. Most of the ideas, I shouldn't say ideas, people who come to you have minor little things. This is probably one of the biggest issues that you probably have faced since you've been on this committee. Just same as the Board of Health. They deal with a lot of small little issues in town. All of a sudden, they're up there to try to defend us and have a clean environment also. So I wish you well in this event, and I hope you make a good decision to protect our environment and our resources here in town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does this work? Yeah, okay. I'm Linda Martin. I'm at 25 Emerald Court. A lot of what I had planned to say has already been spoken, so I may be a little disjointed in what I have to say. But I would like to talk a little bit about the broader context of this issue, that there's been a history of this process of stormwater management throughout the past year with the EFSB. And I am a limited participant in that process, so I'm well aware of what has happened. And Last night, around 5 o'clock, the interveners and the limited participants received a letter from Hillman's lawyer, and in that letter, they said that the current stormwater design meets all applicable Mass DEP stormwater management standards and all but one local zoning bylaw standard. And I believe that standard is the separation between the soil, the storm layer, and the seasonal high groundwater mark. This letter was a direct result of criticisms that the company, Hillman, received from the expert witness of Department and Sheehan, from the Board of Health, and from me. And they also go on then to say that this project protects water quality and will result in improvement in water quality compared to the existing site conditions, and that any residential risk of contamination is inherently low. I would like to say that these are sweeping assurances that, to me, becomes a plan to be a plan. Throughout this process, we have seen several versions of the stormwater management plan. The first one was designed to allow stormwater to go into the town's system. Quickly, that was changed into the second system. One of the major things that happened was that they had only dug 2 test pits on the property. The EFSB and our expert witness agreed that they would dig 7, I think, or 8 test pits that would try to measure the seasonal high groundwater mark. These were very limited, and the results of this, the data, was actually given out by Hillman, and from that, several things arose. Okay, this led to yet another plan from Hillman that I think is probably the one that you have seen in the notice of intent. I think all the other previous plans relied on a 30% design. They are saying that now they're at a 60% design. But really, wouldn't you like to see 100% design before you commit to this project? In fact, particularly what I would like to see from this commission is that a conservative seasonal high groundwater that reflects both the redux features and the USGS index well comparisons. These are 2 vital comparisons that weren't done or were simply assured that they would be met. Demonstrate that the required 3-foot separation from the bottom of the stone layer to the seasonal high groundwater in this zone 2. Provide a complete mounding analysis using the latest groundwater design. Mounding analysis has been asked
Sorry about that.
through several months to Hillman, and they have consistently ignored it. Implement the vegetated stormwater system that Section 5.6 calls for, and to provide a full containment of the firewash water so that containment runoff cannot infiltrate the Zone 2 aquifer. And particularly because we talk about these thermal runaways.
You've gone over your 3 minutes. I'm asking that you wrap.
Okay,
you
just want to say about the thermal runaways. Typically, they happen during bad weather, when it's raining, when it's snowing. And if you have a thermal runaway, even though the fire people are not putting fire on it, it's going to go into the groundwater system. So I'll stop there because I don't want to overstay my time. Thank you for listening to me.
Good evening. My name is Alan Capone. I live at 52 Emerald Court. I'm also the chairman of the Board of Trustees. I've taken a 5-month sabbatical from this whole thing due to health issues, but I'm back. And I'm So I have a bunch of questions. Some of the stuff, most of the stuff you've heard, but I have some direct questions to Hillman. It was mentioned, and I know this is a borderline between conservation, Board of Selectmen. Tyler, you mentioned briefly about the fire department coming in there. Okay. This whole tonight thing was about stormwater. We never talked about fire water. Am I right or am I wrong? Okay. I want to clear the air on that. So the fire water, to me, is more of an importance than the stormwater for the simple reason, do you realize how much water you would be throwing on this thermal runaway? I have the figures here. And in my first figure, and this was just taking it from here, if one fire truck came on there and put an 1.5 inch attack line on that one single line, he would be throwing, at 125 pounds of pressure, he would be throwing 6,000 gallons of water per hour on that fire. 6,000.
I just want to ask that you focus more on the wetlands.
Excuse me?
I'm asking that you focus more on the wetlands in your comments. You're veering off into
That would
fire
encroach
department.
on there. Oh, and I'm bringing this up for you, too. The second thing is, they're not going to use 1.5 inches. They're going to use 2.5-inch lines. They're going to place those things on turrets, and they're going to be dropping 2.5-inch water lines on there, which will drop 15 to 25,000 gallons of water. How are you going to hold this water? You mentioned that you were going to pump it off-site. No way in hell are you going to be able to take that kind of water off the site while they're putting it on the site. How big is your venereal pool?
I just want to reiterate.
These are questions that I want, because I'm going to say one other thing. At the Board of Health meeting, we asked you a bunch of questions, and they said, oh, they're very good questions, and you never answered them. To this day.
Sir, I just need to reiterate that we're talking about wetlands, not the Board of Health.
I understand, but I'm bringing it up
And
for a
that's
point
30
of
seconds.
conservation. All right, my next thing is, do you know how many towns are downstream that are going to be affected by this? And why are they going to be conservation? Particles, your whatever is going in there is going to go downstream. Are these people been alerted? Methuen, Merrimack, Haverhill, Lawrence, have they been advised of what is going on?
That's 3 minutes.
Have you talked to the Army Corps of Engineers? They govern the Merrimack River. Have you brought them here? It's a question I want. Okay.
Sir,
wait, I'm not done.
Your 3 minutes you've gone
up-
over 3 minutes. I ask that you wrap it up.
Conservation and Hillman, you brought up briefly about the decibels with the wall, okay? Which happens to encroach on...
I want to, respect your time, but you've gone over 3 minutes. You're well over 3 minutes, and you're not really talking about the
Conservation
wetlands.
has to be taken into consideration on this particular thing because of the habitats that live in there, but also us. I'm a habitat over there. Do you realize in your spec sheet that it says that the decibels on this is 72, whereas we were only supposed to be allowed 9 to 10?
Sir, I'm sorry, but you're no longer talking about the wetlands, and your time is up.
Well, why did he bring it up?
I'm not hashing this out.
He brought it up, and I'm trying to get an answer on it.
And I apologize, but this is not the appropriate
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to
for
take
this.
all my questions. I'll take all my questions. I'll send them to you.
I would appreciate
And I'm going to send them
that.
to you because I want these answers.
I would appreciate if you write,
And I will.
That goes for everybody.
By the
If
way,
you
the
have
last
written
thing-
instructions.
Last thing, I just want to bring it up. This test cell report, okay, is this on one little single battery?
Sir, again, you've gone well over your 3 minutes.
It's got to do, I just want
There's
a
other
straight answer.
people who would like to speak.
Okay, no problem.
I ask that you. Yes,
I will.
Please give other people
Okay, no
their.
problem.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say, if anybody here has questions for us directly, if we're not able to answer them here tonight, please send them to hillman@eastpointenergy.com. We will respond via email there.
And I would
And that is
also ask that you CC the Conservation Commission on that.
And that email address is also on the Hillman website. If you Google East Point Energy Hillman, it'll be there.
Thank you.
Hi, Andy Rusnock, 1123 Emerald Court. Just brought up that if there's a thermal runaway, we have a lot of water. Wouldn't that be in your purview there? How are they going to get rid of this water without it going into the wetland?
I believe during the discussion, it was stated that in the event of a thermal event, they will not be applying massive amounts of water to put it out. They will let it, the
They're going to
unit
let it
burn.
burn, but they're going to wet the adjacent containers so they don't heat, right?
Yes.
Isn't that correct? And you're going to have particles in the air, and that water's going to go back down into the ground with those particles, I do believe. Is that true?
I believe that's true.
Shouldn't that
Just
be a
one
consideration?
second. I keep on hearing murmurs from the audience. It's very hard to hear up here when people are talking. Continue.
Wouldn't that be your concern? How would that be addressed?
Yes.
So that's something you have to solve.
Yes, I'm not
Do
disagreeing.
you have a solution?
I don't have the solution. The applicant provides the solutions for those.
Do they have a solution?
I believe they do. They've discussed
Can they tell
it.
us what it is?
Do you care to respond, or you can
Yeah, sure.
write it in full?
So I believe I touched on this during my initial presentation. There is a lot that goes into protecting the environment from a facility like this. First, Massachusetts, the government has a great website that touches on any sort of stormwater issues, contamination issues with battery storage facilities in particular. In all of the instances of battery fires across the country where they have tested air, soil, and groundwater, there's never been a case where they have identified contamination.
You can't make that claim. That's a broad claim.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. I need you to refrain from making comments.
That is
if
a
you're not
direct
at the
quote
podium.
from the Massachusetts government's website. There is also, as a part of the host community agreement, a requirement to contract with a third-party environmental group that in the event of a thermal runaway would come out immediately, test air, soil, and groundwater, and conduct any sort of remediation immediately, which could include pumping water from the stormwater basins under the facility.
So you have to be the group that decides whether this is all feasible or not. I'm assuming you all live here too.
Yes, we're all.
So these are all generalizations. It's your responsibility to dig through this and come out with a plan that either accepts this proposal or rejects it.
30 seconds left.
You have something?
She was just warning me that you have 30 seconds left. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Schleicher. I reside at 74 Emerald Court. I'm going to ask one and only one quick question. Do we really care about the environment? That is my question. Do we care about the environment, or do we care about other things more, like money, prestige, influence? Do we really care about the environment? Because if we do, then there's only one answer tonight. If we really care, we stop a lithium plant near conservation land, because that answers the question clearly. There is no other answer to my question. Do we really care about the environment? Thank you for considering that. You are the Conservation Commission. I look to you to ask Do we really care about the environment? Thank you.
Thank you. This is your second time up, so I want to give everybody the opportunity before we get to
May I just
people.
ask you formally to clarify so people can be on the same page about the water? Because you just, the other chairman, you just said no water is used in.
Before you continue, I just need you to introduce yourself for the record.
I'm sorry, I just
again.
want clarification. My name is Donna Robitel, 527 Shawshene Street, and I'm asking that there's two different questions being said interchangeably, like the amount of water used for a fire is one thing. That's being answered truthfully, according to the experts. The amount of water that's needed, a copious, that means a lot, right? A lot of water is needed and will be used for cooling purposes. They're two different questions. So that water would go underground, groundwater, and I'm not saying that I'm telling you, I'm just saying there's two different things. They're two different questions with two different answers. But it has to do with water and fire. So if there is a fire, a lot of water has to be used. And I believe that's factual. Because if they don't cool it, there'll be an explosion. So those are part of conversations that have been said by the experts, but it's not the same question as we don't use water on a fire, we have to let it burn out. Because that's factual. That's a thermal runoff fire. So thank you for letting me barge in on you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment at this time?
I'm Alan Capone. I'm going to reserve my rights, and I'll take all my questions, as I said before, and I send them to the Conservation Commission and to Tyler Rain, so there's no discrepancies with what is being said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don Sheehan, 100 Star Ave. I'm hoping this question can just be answered. In the initial petition that was filed by Hillman Energy, it did say that in the Groundwater Protection District, that Section 5.5, that your use would be prohibited due to the fact a special permit for the storage or handling of toxic or hazardous materials would be required. Is that still the case? Because I did not see an application for the permit, because there you're obviously admitting that we are dealing with toxic and hazardous materials here. My question's towards Tyler. I thought this was a forum we could ask.
Yes, I'm trying to understand. Like, can you repeat your question, I guess?
So when Hillman Energy originally put in a petition for this entire project, they said that under Section 5.6, energy systems is not permitted as a use within the Ground Protection Overlay District, and therefore the company's use is prohibited. Even if such a use were permitted, Section 5.6 requires a special permit for the storage and handling of toxic or hazardous materials. This is something that was the words of, so can we get more clarification on that?
Sure. So Section 5.6 that you're referencing is the zoning bylaws in Tewksbury, which Hillman has requested a zoning exemption from the state, which is the EFSB hearing. Batteries under DOT code, so Department of Transportation, are classified as hazardous materials for transportation and safety. Therefore, under 5.6, they would be prohibited. But again, that is a zoning bylaw issue that we have requested the state for an exemption from.
But you are then admitting that these batteries are toxic, hazardous materials that you're putting right next to Zone 2, well, in a Zone 2, next to wetlands, correct?
According to the Department of Transportation's definition, yes.
Okay, you just wanted to clarify that. And also, in court, Mr. Holmes did testify that this does not have total self-containment. That water would get through, that would not go into the infiltration chambers. It would go directly into the ground. Is that still correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, you testified on the record in court, and our witness testified 80% of this water would go directly into the ground untreated. Is there a way to remove this, any of the fire water from the system that you have, or is it just for total suspended solids?
As a part of the host community agreement, we would have a third-party environmental contractor that would respond to an event to pump water from the stormwater basins. Obviously, that's not collecting the water that's going straight into the ground during a rain or something like that.
But you can only collect the total suspended solids. You can't get all of the fire water. There is no collection of the fire water. You can only scoop out oils and materials like that, none of the chemicals that come off the fire. Is that correct?
The water takes a long time to leave those chambers, those collection basins. And the environmental contractor, there would still be water in those basins to pump out.
The stormwater that's left in the system, and didn't they say within 30 days that they had to come out? That's originally how the HCA was worded, I believe.
No, that's not correct.
But would all of the fire water be contained in your stormwater systems?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Andy Rusnak.
Sir, have you already spoken?
I have, but I just have a question. I don't know much about what's going on here, but they talked about solving all these problems. These gentlemen have told us that they're not going to put out the fire, but they will put water onto the adjacent containers, batteries, and where will that water go?
Yeah, so again, in a absolute last resort, at the discretion of the fire department, they could mist adjacent containers, so not putting water directly onto the container that's in thermal runaway. So the likelihood of any sort of contaminants being in that water is also very low. That water would discharge to the stormwater system, which we've presented here tonight.
And it's the fire department's prerogative to wet those containers down or not?
Correct, yeah, in coordination with a subject matter expert that would be dispatched from our company in the event of a emergency.
Where is your emergency response team, I believe?
Yep, so they would have a...
Where are they located?
They would have a 4-hour window to be on site.
Where are they located?
We have not contracted with anybody yet.
The last time, we were told they were located in Texas.
That was for our Texas-based projects.
And that's what we were told.
Somebody made a comment, and I need you to, if you're going to make a comment, come up to the podium, but you can continue. Sir, before you begin, I think you're the fourth or fifth person who has already spoken and is now getting up again. So if there's no new people that want to speak, after you're done, I am going to entertain a motion to continue this meeting to the next meeting. The public hearing will not be closed. Anybody who, shows up to the next meeting will also have a chance to speak and make a comment. If there's nobody else, I guess, if somebody else right now wants to make a comment, I ask that you go up now. But if you don't, I'm going to allow this gentleman to speak, and then I'm going to entertain a motion to continue. I'm not seeing anybody get up, so please.
I have one question to ask.
Can you just introduce yourself for the record again?
Ray Adams, 1203 Emerald Court.
Thank you.
Lived in Tewksbury since 1965. I've owned 4 homes in Tewksbury. But one question I have is, this is the Conservation Commission. We have rules in this town to protect the town. Why are they getting so many exceptions? I've been to meetings with Tyler and other people, the town manager and the select board, and I've received lies. And I have witnesses that I can say that they told us wrong information and then told us different information again. But my point is, if we're concerned about conservation, why are there so many exceptions? They should follow the rules. If they can't follow the rules, it shouldn't exist, because this doesn't benefit anybody. The taxpayer is going to pay for this. So why are we giving them exceptions? There should be no exceptions.
Thank you. All right, so there's a long list of questions that have been asked, and I think we need to review them and try to get answers. I ask that you also review them and provide answers. But at this time, I am going to entertain a motion to continue this public hearing, notice of intent and land disturbance permit for Tyler Ryan, 73 to 75 Hillman Street, Assessors Map 35, Lot 6, DEP file number 305-1232 to the next meeting on June 10th, 2026. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Point, didn't we talk about going to the 24th with it?
Do you want to go to the 24th or the 10th?
I think we'll do the 10th if you're not ready, we'll continue it then again.
All right, so could I have a motion to continue this hearing to the...
Make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. Before you guys all filter out, do we have an administrator report?
Not today. Nope.
All right, then I'm going to jump right to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.